morning. Thank you for joining us for our PSTA meeting. Would ask if you have a phone, please put it on silent or vibrate if you would. I'd like to begin with a moment of silence if we could rise. Thank you. Commissioner Latvala, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will begin with public comment. If you'd like to speak to the board, please fill out a green card. It's available at the front table, and you will be allocated up to 3 minutes to speak to the board. We will begin with Kevin Thurman.
Good morning, PSTA Board. Kevin Thurman, Executive Director of Connect Tampa Bay, 1220 East Cumberland Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about spam, disinformation, and the rancor that tends to come with it. So, as you know, all of your emails of anybody who's ever asked any information for PSTA has been public records requested by people who often disagree with, many of my members. And that's fine. That's exactly what they're allowed to do under the law. But what I'm really concerned about is the tone of which things have taken. Last week, a couple weeks ago, Connect Tampa Bay went out and pointed out that many paid agents of campaign operatives have gone out and called people Nazis and compared them to terrorists. Many of them will probably stand up after me right now and probably get very close to saying that again. But what I think is most important for this board to understand today is what's happening right now is an email that went out just the other day. The email is concerning whether or not about DART service. That email, because they public record requested your emails and their paid agent gave them the email addresses he public records requested, went out and claimed that DART is available to every single senior on a discount, which you, as board members who review the budgets and understand how DART works, know isn't true. It's available to people who are disabled and qualify for the eligible discount. Most seniors need to rely on all the bus service. It also likes to claim that the idea that green light isn't important for DART. But the reality is they're misinforming these seniors who should be using this service that DART is available on a discount only within 3/4 of a mile of the routes you currently have. And if people cut the routes, which is what the people who sent this email out want to do, then DART service will be cut. So will regular service for seniors. Now, this misinformation is getting into the hands of people who have simply just contacted PSTA for information. And I think it's important that we set the record straight when people try to get that kind of misinformation out there or rancor about all kinds of stuff. Because what happens is people start pushing out information and they start, oh, this is the most terrible thing in the entire world, this is happening. And this other piece of information I got from PSTA is the most terrible information in the entire world. And all that's really left in between are the people who need to use the service to get to the doctor's office, to get to work, who are going to misunderstand how this goes. And the truth of the matter is that whether we're going to talk about whether we're going to talk about emails that PSTA sent to each other and staff, and we're going to misquote that and truncate that information, or we're going to truncate information about HART. I encourage the leaders on this dais to stay clear of that. I encourage the leaders on this dais to focus on what is important, which is the mobility and the future of the people of Pinellas. In just a few weeks, the people are going to decide the issue about whether or not they're going to raise their sales tax for Greenlight Pinellas. And that's important. But we can never lose sight of what's most important, which is the truth about how we move people around this county.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. And can folks see the 3 minute? Okay, you were right on time. Folks, you have 3 minutes. I'm going to try to stick to that today. Next is Phil Compton.
Good morning. Phil Compton, Senior Organizing Representative with the Sierra Club Florida office in St. Petersburg, 1990 Central Avenue. I'd like to add to some of the things that Mr. Thurman just said. There's been a lot of criticism of this agency. There's been a lot of criticism of the Greenlight Pinellas plan. But I want to tell a story about the people who've been talking about that and making those claims and making those statements and what they say. Over a year ago, before this went to ballot, before you approved this plan, I had the opportunity to be on the Florida Matters show on WSF FM 89.7. With me on the panel was Brian with the Connect Tampa Bay, Dr. Dave McCaleb, and Barbara Hazelden, representing No Tax for Tracks. And in the course of that conversation that day, Ms. Hazelden made the remark that the solution to the problem of the shortage of funds that PSTA has projected is simply to eliminate the routes that have the fewest riders. And she's referring to information bar graphs that PSTA has used. PSTA has, and you've seen this presentation many times yourself, two sets of bar graphs. One shows the relative number of riders per route. The other shows the number of riders per hour per route. The routes that Ms. Hazelden and No Tax for Tracks would eliminate as their solution to the problem of funding are the routes that do not run as long, but when they do run, they have just as many riders. The DART services that Mr. Thurman referred to depend upon having those routes. People would lose service in this county if voters followed their advice. I corrected Ms. Hazelden on the show that day, and I thought, as any reasonable person would, that, okay, we all make mistakes. Here's new information. I neglected to look at the second set of data. No. They have continued to use this as one of their primary talking points to try to fool the voters into thinking that this is an inefficient agency, that you don't know what you're doing and you're not to be trusted with the taxpayers' dollars. That's the real story. That's the story that should be in the newspaper. And I hope that you stay the course and consider the source as you look at these criticisms and look at the future here. Sierra Club supports Greenlight Pinellas. Thank you for moving forward.
Thank you. Next speaker is Bill Bucola.
Somebody was negotiating with me about giving you my time. I thought I would, but you're quicker than I could be. So, good morning, everybody. I just want to reiterate what you already know and what I want everybody else to hear again. The people who are opposed to this plan, to Greenlight Pinellas, are persistently and consistently wildly inaccurate about the facts they throw out, the assertions they throw out as facts, and the claims about the outcome of doing this project. These people invoke Hitler and Al-Qaeda when they talk about the people who support the plan, and you, this board. It's beyond common sense, and we have to remember that the incredible good this project is going to provide this area, and how important it is to link up to Hillsborough and Pasco. So please keep it in mind. You're under pressure. We understand that. I'm the Klimt here, but it's just important to know that we support you. Most people will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is George Root.
Good morning. I'm a resident of Oldsmar at this time, but I'm also a native Floridian who spent most of my life here and lived in almost every community and gone to most of our major higher educational institutions as well. What I want to be able to tell you and share with you this morning is that the people I talk to on a daily basis, the people that I share lunch with, we talk about the issues of the expansion of the bus system and how necessary it is. And the younger people, well, they use language that I don't use because my father was World War II. So we came from a time of decorum. But a lot of the younger people have very strong feelings that are coming from looking at the information being presented by the opposition on their websites, and they're telling me that it just doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make sense to them that people who claim that it's a conspiracy to have tinted windows on buses. It doesn't make sense to them that they claim that this is some way going to harm the people in our community who are less able than others because of their economic circumstances. I spent nearly 5 years running a free clinic in Clearwater, Florida, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that transportation is one of the most important issues facing those people with limited incomes. It's one of the most important issues facing those who have been injured by their service to our country. Is one of the most important issues that faces all of us at any time when we're recovering from an automobile accident, when we have young people that need to get to their jobs and we have only one vehicle in a family. And it's also very important for young people who are going to both their educational institutions and their recreation. So I want to ask you today, please do not let those who have a lesser concern for the community at large hold the day in their misinformation and their lack of generosity. Because I remember those like the Boyd family who gave the right-of-way for US 19. I remember Jay Starkey, whose lands are providing us with water, and Floridians who have made what's possible for us to have the quality of life that we have now, are those who were willing to look toward the future and build something instead of tearing down what we have and making the future less than it could be for everyone without exception. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dr. Eugene Webb.
Good morning. Dr. E. Eugene Webb, Pinellas Park. I'm sure you're going to hear more about Mr. Miller's emails and his action toward this board and the public in just a few minutes. But I would remind you that about 3 meetings ago, I asked you all to release those emails, and you didn't. And while it probably would not have changed the context, it certainly would have eliminated the shock value of the recent disclosures. Today, however, I come to you with a different question. From a formal public records request that I made, no formal document authorizing Mr. Miller's order to prepare and send a $350,000 check to Homeland Security was ever produced. PSTA counsel cited Section 9 of Policies and Procedures, but a review of that shows no authority to spend unbudgeted funds or any funds without the board's approval. So I would ask you today, was there a board authorization before or after the fact to pay Homeland Security the $350,000? Or did Mr. Miller just on his own have a check cut for $350,000, and is that going to be standard operating procedure? Secondly, I've attended PST board meeting after board meeting and watched as all of you who are elected officials and citizens sit here with that sort of deer in the headlights look while the CEO lies to you and the chairman supports him, and no one ever raises a question. I've come to believe it's the Norm Roche effect. For some reason, you fear the leadership will throw you off the board if you question their actions. You're not here to add to your campaign resume. I think it's time for this board to get some backbone. If you really believe in Greenlight, if you really believe this is the solution for Pinellas County's transportation future, then prove it. Don't ask for Mr. Miller's resignation. Someone make a motion and remove him from office today, right now. If you believe in this thing, if you think it's the way we ought to go, then it ought to have the kind of leadership that the public can trust in. Prove to the voters that the PSTA board and Greenlight is worthy of the commitment of $130 million a year, and give them confidence that you, as their elected representatives and board members, will look out for their interests. You haven't done that as far as I can see up to now. If you cannot or will not do that, then this referendum does not deserve the voters' support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Webb, and we will respond to your question about the authorization for the return of the funds. As far as the Norm Roche effect, I believe in elections, and almost everyone on this board was elected, and the people understood what we stood for when we were elected or reelected. Those are the folks we report to, and those are the folks we're accountable to. Next speaker is Paul Carter.
Good morning,
Morning.
Chairman Welch, PSTA board members. My name is Paul Carter. I live in St. Petersburg, and I want to talk today about the Citizens Oversight Committee for Greenlight Pinellas. Overall, I believe PSTA is well run operationally, as that's been reflected in the audits done by Ernst & Young. While the focus of PSTA may have strayed a bit, I believe that the continued efforts of telling more people about the Green Light Plan is important, and the more people who learn about the plan and know about it, I think the more positive they become. Pinellas County has done big things before. I believe that together we can do big things again. Regardless of all the rhetoric, and we've heard some of it this morning, we need a better transit plan. It has to be our plan, serving our people, and it must be accountable and fiscally sound. I believe the new Citizens Oversight Committee will play an important role, together with this board, in providing continued oversight of the agency. I'm retired after about 30 years in the advertising agency business. I've served as dean at a large community college. Most recently, I was Director of Marketing and Strategic Initiatives at the Maureen Arts Center in St. Petersburg, helping to launch the Chihuly Collection. And I also sit on, I think it's 5 or 6, not-for-profit boards. I'm here to volunteer my services on the Citizens Oversight Committee. I believe this committee can be a tool to work with PSTA, with the board and the community to make sure that we get the best transit system at the best price. Many people have worked really hard to make Pinellas County a special place to live and to work, and I hope we can all work together to get this done right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. The Citizens Oversight Committee is very important to the board. We authorized that a couple of meetings ago, and understand that the applications are available on our website right now at psta.net. So please apply if you're interested. Next speaker is Chuck Terzian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Chuck Terzian, a longtime resident of Pinellas County. Grew up and rode the buses quite a lot. And when I was a kid, it was the only way I got around to go to the mall and all that kinds of stuff. I'm a big fan of public transportation. I currently work for a company based out of San Francisco. I could see their public transportation system on a frequent basis. They are a larger city, but it's obvious that they've already gone through a lot of the growing pains that we're seeing now, and that's what you're really seeing. You're seeing people that are hanging on to the old way or the old idea of how things should be done, people that also are hanging on to an ideology of government is bad, no government is what they want, no public transit authority do they want. They want to privatize. They're not looking for solutions. They're not looking to make this better. You see that in their bombastic comparisons between Nazis and so on and so forth, as other people have spoken. Most of you I've seen, or several of you I've seen, deliberate on things, and I trust your judgment to consider facts and logic. And know that when somebody is presenting an option, and whether or not they're presenting you with facts and logic or filtered information, to put it nicely, and sort through that and only consider those things that are worthy of consideration by anybody who values facts and logic. So that's really all I have to say. Please just use your best judgment. Know that you are supported by people, and there's a lot of people that can't make it here, a lot of people that aren't that comfortable speaking in front of other people that support facts and logic and not bombastic, the world is going to end. And also this idea that they keep putting forth, that it is, their solution is simply to privatize. And any problems we have, public records requests don't work with private companies. That's not how that goes. You are part of, as well as the Citizen Oversight Board, you are part of our accountability measures. And there are certain things that you don't leave up to the goodwill of those that can hide. And so more power to you. Thank you for helping move us forward into the last century. Actually, we should have already been here, but I appreciate the efforts everybody's putting forth to move us forward in our transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Devin Henderson.
Hi, good morning. My name is Devin Henderson. I'm a 27-year-old college student here in Pinellas County, and I too have lived here my entire life. I was born in Bayfront Hospital and love this place and care about it deeply. I'm very against the Green Light Pinellas plan for many reasons. One being that the majority of, at least the beginning of the money is for the light rail and has nothing to, really to do with buses. But that's a whole other topic. I wanted to bring something up to you today that's been concerning me. While I'm getting on the bus, you guys are familiar with the UPass program. I'm sitting on the bus, and a group of students is getting on, and I purposely got on at a stop further back than where the normal group gets on. And they get on the bus, and the driver didn't count how many students was getting on the bus, yet went bump, 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 and was just pushing that UPass button, just pushing it. Just keeping on pushing it. He didn't care how many times he was pushing it. He was just pushing it. So this is going to help inflate these numbers, although I can tell you as a student at SPC, I have not seen a dramatic increase in bus riders. I just haven't, and I've been going there for 2 years, taking the bus the whole time. So I'm here to tell you right now, I have not seen a drastic increase in riders. It's not about that. It's about PSTA's flawed system and about its mismanaged system. After what I saw, Mike Deason, who, thank God we have him to look out for the community. I mean, thank God. If it wasn't for guys like Mike Deason, who knows, we'd have the wool pulled over our eyes all the time. But after I read these emails from Brad Miller, it just floors me that the PSTA CEO, your beloved security, we'll make sure we squeeze something in about your beloved security. This just shows the kind of thinking that the management has, particularly the CEO. I too feel that Brad Miller should just resign. But if Brad Miller won't resign today, I do think the board should go on ahead and make a motion and take action to remove him today. You can't just keep on deceiving the community and just continue to get away with it. It's happening over and over, and it's happening more often and on a larger scale than ever. Just imagine if this thing were to pass, which it's not looking like it will, but just imagine if this thing were to pass, what it would be like then. I hope you guys get it together and make the right decisions for the community. That is what you're here for, is for us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Could you give us Mr. Henderson, could you give us the route number where you observed this behavior and the date and time?
I'll get you a video here soon.
If you have a video, that would be
Sure.
great. If not, just give us the information on when you observed that.
I'll get you a video soon of it happening.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Jonathan Chambers.
Good morning, Board. My name is Jonathan Chambers, live in St. Petersburg. I'm here to request that the PSTA Board remove Greenlight head Brad Miller from his position for abusing federal funds that were designed to stop bus bombings and instead promote Greenlight Pinellas, which if passed would result in the highest sales tax in the state of Florida. Now, we all know this. We all know what's been in the news. You all know where I stand. I know where many of you stand. But as the board of directors, it is your responsibility, your fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure that it's being run efficiently, properly, and above board. And there continue to be event after event that directly point out that Mr. Miller is not the proper person to be in the position as CEO. And I want to remind you of your responsibility as a board of directors to take care of the problem so we have an efficient and well-run and properly run PSTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Judy Peterson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been with the No Tax for Tracks group for about 2 or 3 years. I can't keep up because it's been forever, it seems to me. And I joined because I really did not want to see taxes increased. And I understand people's not agreeing, and I get the disagreement. I'm okay with that, but I wanted to fight it. But in the last 6 months, I have been very disenfranchised to see what's going on with some of the tactics that are being used. One of the tentacles of Friends of Greenlight, or whatever the organization is paying USF students. This is the rumor mill, but it's somebody that actually was told this, to steal no tax for track signs. Now, you can laugh, but I'm telling you.
Let's be respectful of every speaker.
I'm telling you, guys. Thank you. There's been some other things that have gone on that are just downright unsavory and not good. But I also realize that that's politics, and it's a nasty, nasty business. So I get it. However, I have really watched with disgust at what's gone on with the misuse of funds from the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the first time we decided, you guys decided, that Mr. Miller had made a mistake, he didn't know the rules, we're going to forgive him, and we're going to let him keep his job. Well, I thought that was kind of squishy, but I'm like, okay, I get it. But this last thing that came out Friday is ridiculous. The man knew what was going on. He doesn't care. He could come up for federal charges. And if you guys want to let him continue to keep his job, you may want to think of the implications should he be charged with a federal indictment. Now, I know me, for one, would just as soon not let him have one more penny of my money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Let me just ask you a question. Did you read all of the emails?
I did with the Mike Deason report.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Tom Rask, speaking for himself, and Sully Grasso, I believe that's the cameraman, so you have a total of 6 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you read my emails. My question is very simple. It is, will there be a at-grade crossing on Ulmerton? I'm waiting to hear an answer because the PSTA staff told me yesterday that decision is yet to be finalized. And just to review for the audience and for those watching at home, in March, when I requested a list of signalized intersections, Ulmerton was not on that list. And we're talking about where Roosevelt hits Ulmerton over there, the west side, around 44th Street, not right over here where Roosevelt goes southbound from Ulmerton. It was not on that list. And since the Gateway Connector was announced, which involves an elevated toll road going north-south over there, I got an email in which a PSTA staffer, doesn't matter their name, but wrote that they're coordinating with FDOT to have the light rail go under the elevated toll road. And there has been an email exchange with PSTA staff, and you've been kept informed. So the light rail crossing on Ulmerton has moved from not being a street level intersection to, it's been moved out of that column into the column of possibly being one. And to say that the decision is going to be finalized sometime later is just not believable. That tells me that there will be a street level, that means that the technical term is at grade, a street level crossing on Ulmerton. This is the busiest county road. This section of county road out here, Ulmerton, is the busiest of any in the county, as you can see from the link I sent you yesterday. So again, I'd like someone on the board to please tell me definitively, no, there will not be a street level at grade crossing on Ulmerton of the light rail.
You have 1 minute left. We will have staff respond to this question.
I have actually 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Because you set the timer to 3, so.
Okay. So if you have any other statements, make them.
Well, I do have
Staff
other
will
statements, but
respond to your
I
question.
want to have on tape here that the board was given a chance to tell the public definitively that there will not be an at-grade crossing on the busiest section of County Road with barriers going down every 5 minutes during peak hours. Because if a train's going every 10 minutes, that means one's going one direction every 10 minutes, one's going another every 10 minutes. That's every 5 minutes. Barriers will be coming down on the busiest section of County Road in Pinellas County. And I just want for the record that that the board, no board member was willing to say there will not be a crossing there. There will not be a street level crossing. So it is a matter of ding, 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 ding every 5 minutes. Yes, I did have some other comments. The misinformation from Connect Tampa Bay continues. Mr. Thurman said that the email from No Tax to Tracks had said every single senior is entitled to DART. That's not what it said. It said every qualified senior. This is the same misinformation Mr. Johnny Johnson, who is in the audience today, tried to propagate at a meeting Saturday morning in Dunedin. The reality is that most seniors qualify just about the time they stop driving. Mr. Terzian referred to those in the private industry, private sector, as those who can hide their actions, meaning that they don't have to disclose who they email, who they communicate with documents. Mr. Terzian doesn't seem to understand that the reason we have the Sunshine Law, the reason we have public records requests is because tax dollars are being spent. I found his comment frankly offensive. On the issue of the Homeland Security grant, either you are entitled to the money, in which you keep it, or you're not entitled to the money, in which case you return it. My understanding is that the official position of PSTA to this day is they did nothing wrong with that grant money, yet they returned it. As a taxpayer, I have a problem with that. You know, either you did nothing wrong, in which case you keep the money, you fight for the taxpayers to hang on to that money, or you return it and say, well, you know, we didn't follow the guidelines. We don't agree we didn't follow the guidelines, but we think that DHS will determine that we didn't follow the guidelines, so we're returning the money. When I first set foot in Florida, it was in 1979. It was to go to Disney World and visit some friends. Like many people, you know, that's what you come for. And the sales tax was 4%. In fact, when my dad was born, the sales tax was 0 here. And there might be some people sitting on this board who were born when it was 0. So it was 4%. Now you want to make it 8%. When is more? When is it enough? It seems that we have a case here of always more, never enough. And there's been a call here for civility. Someone from PSTA headquarters here took a survey, filled out one of No Tax or Track surveys. In the comments section, they wrote, "You people are ridiculous." They wrote that to No Tax or Tracks. How do we know? Because we log the IP address. Not meaning we, No Tax or Tracks, but I'm the vendor to them. So that's one thing that was said by someone here at PSTA. And Mr. Barkley well knows that he began an email to No Tax or Tracks with the words, "Listen, dirtball," and then he threatened federal prosecution. So it cuts both ways. Civility goes both ways. And once again, I'm going to give you a chance to tell me there will be no gray level
As I
crossing
said,
on
we will
Overton.
respond to your question.
You haven't responded yet. I've been waiting for 2 weeks.
Take your time to ask. Our staff will respond to that. There's a whole lot in your comments that I won't respond to word for word, but you and I had a debate as he leaves the room at Eckerd College, and we just disagree on that. You talked about rail causing congestion at Gandy, Seminole Boulevard, Starkey, Belcher, Roosevelt. Now we're talking about it on Arlington. So we just disagree on that. We think it can be implemented without causing increased congestion. And I won't go to the civility piece. I'm just dying to ask you a question, but I won't do that.
Mr. Chair,
No, Commissioner Barkley.
with regard to the comment just made by Mr. Rask, No Tax for Tracks penetrated a private email, a proprietary email of Allstate Insurance Company. They have no right to be on that. There is no reason for anything to do with PSTA on that private email. And the legal department of Allstate protects their emails very, very strongly. That's the second time after I previously asked to have that removed that they did that.
Thank you, Commissioner Barkley. Next speaker is Kathy Sorensen.
Hi, my name is Kathy Sorensen. I live on Treasure Island, Florida. And I, too, want to reiterate that the removal of Brad Miller is something that you definitely should consider doing. He has abused federal funds. He has also supported a union effort to boycott mom-and-pop type businesses that support Greenlight, or excuse me, that oppose Greenlight, the mom-and-pop folks that are standing to have increased taxes, sales taxes, when they buy their supplies for their businesses. Also, Mr. Miller has created a culture of corruption in all of this situation that we're discussing today. He's misled the board about the transit numbers that would get our federal funding for this proposal. And I think the board should thoroughly investigate this evidence and make the right decision about removing Brad Miller. And I also want to comment on the sign situation that Judy Peterson brought up. And that is that I have been personally involved with code enforcement on Treasure Island. And they have assured me that they are not removing our no tax for tracks signs. So there is nothing left for me to assume but that proponents of Greenlight are removing our signs, because the Greenlight one right next to it is remaining. And we have pictures of how people have taken box cutters and sliced up our $350 signs out on the right-of-way. So I heard laughter when people were saying that, but it's a very serious thing. And I talk to the citizenry, and they see what is happening, and they wonder about the caliber of people working toward this proposal. And that's all I have to say. Please do make the right decision today.
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen, and I'll agree with you on the issue of signs. I just say welcome to my world. That happens in every campaign on both sides.
We have not done anything to a green light sign.
Please, folks, let's continue being civil. We're doing a good job. From both sides, let's tell both of our supporters that we don't support that.
Thank you.
Signs that go up just need to stay there. And
Appreciate
folks
that.
will vote on November 4th, and we'll move forward. Thank you. Next is Ken Elliott.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last meeting before the vote for Greenlight.
Really?
I'm excited. Everybody else is. On a good note, I'd just like to say that the union had a pub crawl since last meeting in both downtown St. Pete and Dunedin, and both were a success. All the restaurants and everything were very hospitable to us, and we were able to get out there and talk to the people directly and have a good time and support Julie.
Thank you.
It was great. What I would like to address is Commissioner Welsh made a comment a few months ago, said the closer we get to the vote, the rhetoric is going to heat up. And it has, but it's kind of, I mean, it really is skyrocketing. I can tell you that I am now seeing vandalism of taxpayer property. That is our bus shelters. People breaking the glass, people writing in permanent marker, their own permanent things, and which is kind of odd because, it's people saying they're standing up for taxpayer money, yet they're destroying taxpayer property. And I also wanted to bring something that I wanted to bring us out. I was I've been called a couple times with a meeting with safety and security. Yeah, I am a union member, but I guess, I have been told that they have pulled my public records. I have personally seen on Facebook that they said, we have Mr. Elliott's work schedule if anybody wants it. These kind of tactics, I will not be intimidated by these. The union will not be intimidated by these kind of tactics. But it really makes me feel good, because if Greenlight was such a bad plan, why would they have to resort to these kind of tactics? I don't know if it's kind of a measure to keep us quiet or something like that, but we're not going to back off. We support Greenlight, and we will continue to do so. And we appreciate all of you for standing strong, because I know public transit politically can be shaky ground for both Republicans and Democrats, and we're very proud of all of you. And I know you've heard a lot of rhetoric about our CEO, and while some people up here speaking, Oki and I had a quick 30-second meeting, and the union has decided that we will not let Brad Miller resign. So the opposition is out of luck. Thank you all very much. Yes, for Greenlight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Dave Kovar, speaking for himself, Jesse Forcan, and Vivian Peters. So he has 9 minutes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I want to. Okay, that's going to run that way. I appreciate your attention, and I hope I don't run too long. My name is Dave Kovar. As you know, I live at 305 Los Prados Drive in Safety Harbor. Today I'm here as a member of the UU of Clearwater, Unitarian Universalist, because while transit is important for the environment and a post-carbon world, which is why I'm usually here, it also has a second human face. Many of you know my commitment to the poor and the working poor and those striving to improve their standing, folks trying to get themselves back to school. My heart breaks to hear when the plight of the poor is used by those opposing their best chance to get forward. I don't want to be here today. I have much better things to be doing than to stand here again. But here I am, forced to address this torrent of angry accusations and crazy claims about smoking guns, restaurant boycotts, demands for resignations, and payola. I'm here to set the record straight and to represent the thousands of citizens in Pinellas who are frankly sick and tired of a constant barrage of negative and mean-spirited accusations flying in the air. Voters simply want information and facts, not name-calling, daily spam into their mailbox, and talks of crazy conspiracies. So what do you as a board do about these constant, almost daily calls for resignations? Bear with me. 3 months ago, we resolved an issue about PSTA paying for Greenlight literature, signs, and especially bus wraps with Greenlight graphics on them. The opponents called it illegal and a big scandal because you spent taxpayer money to endorse Greenlight. They posted this claim on the internet, they wrote about it in newspapers, they harped about it in their public speeches. They encouraged, finally, Senator Brandeis to launch a state investigation. And PSTA did something I thought was very smart. They said, go ahead, you won't find anything. Well, for several weeks, they then crowed that Greenlight is under a state investigation, not mentioning that anything can be investigated. And as we know, several weeks later, the Inspector General came back and said exactly as predicted, there's no wrongdoing. However, the blogs immediately lit up. That just proves that the Inspector General was on the payroll of Greenlight. He needs to be investigated now, because for the opponents, somehow reality cannot contradict this previous narrative. For them, it's like this exoneration did not happen. We hear from opponents that our tax will remove $100 million from our local economy. Yet the truth is, Greenlight is going to return this money to the local economy. Cars, gasoline, insurance are things that take money from our economy. They send them up to Wall Street. They send them to Saudi Arabia. Rental cars for tourists take money from the economy. We hear 8% will be the highest sales tax in the state, but no one mentions that on the same day as our election, Polk County is having the exact same election, and should there pass, it's very likely that we will never spend 1 minute with the highest so-called sales tax in the state. And of course, we all know that as soon as green light passes, Hillsborough is going to go the same way. In Florida, we have no income tax. The only way to pay for transit, as county after county goes for it, is going to be with a sales tax. So maybe we're going to have 2 counties, not 1, in the beginning, but eventually it'll be 3, 4, 5, and more. The opponents continue to say PSTA has never lowered taxes when they've been shown data that says that's simply not true. And as for signs, oh my God. I personally have put up over 100 signs that have magically disappeared. Now, I know that some of them were removed by the people there because you go out and you see the lawn is cut and everybody's sign is missing, whether it's for a councilman, whether it's for the red team, or whether it's for the green team. Then later they beat me back and they have a new red sign. So I understand it's not that everybody stole my sign, it's just they're a little quicker than me. But there are other times, and I have used some various techniques. I'm a bright guy. For instance, there was a sign from Peggy O'Shea and Brian Battaglia during the primary that had sat there for the length of the primary, and then the primary was over, and that sign sat another 2 full weeks. Nobody cared about that sign sitting there for 2 weeks. So I went up, removed the sign, left the wire in the exact same spot, put my sign on top of it, and the very next day it disappeared. Now, why would somebody not care about that sign? You can't say, well, it was in my way. You can't say, well, it was on my lawn. The only reason that sign was removed because it was green light. Next, I did something nice. I had signs on a fence next to a pond. Also on that fence was a sign for one of the independent candidates. So I clipped my sign to that fence, and I clipped his sign to that fence. We came back, and someone had cut the clips on my sign and removed it, but the clips on his sign were still in place, meaning his sign hadn't been removed and he came back. Someone specifically came, clipped the signs on my green light, and removed my sign. So when I hear, oh, they're stealing our signs, I want nothing to hear about it. As for the folks that cut their sign and, we heard all about it on TV, the green side completely disowned it. I will point out at the beginning of this election, I sent a letter to both Dr. McCaleb and Barb Hazelden saying, please, let's play fair. We'll be telling our side, I'd like to see you send a note to your side telling people to just leave the signs alone. Let's not have a sign war. Yet I hear from people, is anyone working on green light? All I see are red signs, and I think that's the proof in the pudding about signs. Listen, the red side keeps scaring people about 10 years of rail construction, making East Bay a nightmare, even though we all know that for the first 8 years it's going to only be planning, approvals, and land acquisition. Nobody's going to break ground until the 9th year of the plan. We hear about why are they wasting money by buying 2 Cadillac buses where they could be buying 3 Chevys, or the quotes that how expensive the 10 years of rail, but no one ever mentions that you should be costing all this across the lifetime. I'm thinking of people who sit around in the bar saying that Joe Madden should have put this batting order in, or he should have sent this guy. You know, there's a reason we have professional planners. There's a reason we have professional transit, people that go to school, people that hire analysts to work on this, not just a bunch of amateurs. I defer to you guys. I mean, I have a bunch of bright ideas, but I am certainly no expert. So what I'm talking about here is that we have a pattern of deciding something is true and then simply ignoring any explanation or any proof that contradicts that personal opinion. Even ignoring when official findings of an official third-party auditor proves that to be true. It still appears on websites. It still appears in letters to the editor, just simply denying truth. So what do you guys do when those parties ask, no, demand for the second time, the third time, the fourth time, that Brad Miller be fired and be hauled out of this room directly to jail? Well, listen, they sincerely believe what they believe, despite reality. America is a great country. You are free to believe a perpetual motion machine or in the Easter Bunny. However, as respected members of the PST board, As elected representatives of the county, of various cities, as private citizens of high esteem with experience in the law and private transportation industry, I ask you each to act responsibly in the face of continued nonsense. Let the angry speak their mind, but please postpone any action for a few weeks until after the election. And then here's my suggestion. Let's have a full and thorough investigation into what must be hundreds of claims that have been made in the last couple years. A matter of fact, I'm retired, and I have the right credentials. Let me volunteer to chair this first pass. It should be good entertainment. Let's get the important people back to work, and by that I mean you and all of PSTA. Get this project moving, get transit moving, and let's get the economy for our cities and the county moving. I personally have my eye on a small apartment somewhere along that new rail line in Largo. In about 10 years, I should be ready to give up my car, and that's where I want to be living. Thank you all for your hard work, your public service, and your extreme patience through this difficult time. And thank you for your attention today.
Thank you, Mr. Kovar. Please, let's not applaud. I only have 2 cards left. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a green card. Next speaker is Barb Hazelden. He was speaking for 3 people. He had 9 minutes total. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I kind of had to change what I was going to say because I wanted to react or have a response to Mr. Elliott, who is a PSTA employee, bus driver, just for the record so everyone knows, and has I have 2 postings here that he has done on Facebook. And he was so outraged making the accusation that No Tax for Tracks or supporters of No Tax for Tracks or opponents of Greenlight Pinellas have somehow, he's talking about vandalizing the bus stops, the bus shelters, and all of the talk this morning about the signs and so on and so forth, which I was not going to talk about at all. But for some reason, I did bring these with me. I brought a whole stack of paper, not knowing where this conversation was going to head this morning. And so I have 2 emails, two postings, I should say, on Facebook. One is from September 1st, which is Ken Elliott. And he says, "Oh, I'm shaking in my bus. I have noticed lately that my steering tends to pull towards the curb whenever there are little red signs there. Laugh out loud." Then I have a second one from a week ago where Ken Elliott, and I've just given him to the press, has stated, "Laugh out loud, Water John Slupecki. I've been thinking of trying to sell some of these red signs I have as a benefit to feed Tom Rath's kids. Any takers? They're brand new, have only seen about 2 hours of daylight." So much for accusations, because generally speaking, he who protesteth is the one who is guilty of the deed. And I can tell you that I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of signs other than to defend our position and to take the evidence at hand. And all year long, I've tried to take the evidence at hand and to present the truth as is being presented. PSTA CEO Brad Miller, and I'll include Assistant Cassandra Borchers, and I'll include the entire board, have misused the clout, prestige, and power of this organization to attempt to deceive and manipulate the public into raising our sales tax to the highest in the state of Florida to enable you to triple the revenue of PSTA and create PSTA World. At the Transportation Task Force meeting assembled by Karen Seal, December 10, 2010, which is 4 years ago, I was at that meeting, and it was so obvious at that meeting that I will say to you folks that that's what I committed to 4 years ago, and what has caused me to remain engaged 4 years was to see the deception that was employed the day of that Transportation Task Force meeting, because that was supposed to be the beginning of a discussion in the community as to what the solutions or what the presentations might be for public transportation. But instead, there was a man, I'll never forget it, there was an artist, and there was a wall that was
Ms.
similar
Hazelden,
to
I'm
this.
going to ask you to wrap up. I'm going to give you a few more seconds.
He
You're
drew a
over your time.
picture of a train. 4 years ago, there was a train that was drawn on that wall, and that was the outcome and the goal of this entire process before the alternative analysis or anything ever started. And everything has been manipulated these 4 years in order to get to this
right there, Ms.
outcome.
Hazelden. I've given you
So-
that extra time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is John Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Johnny Johnson. It's nice to thank you all for letting me speak for a couple of minutes. I am here as an advocate for those that can't or aren't able to be here. There's two types of advocates in this room, the opponents and proponents of this program. I'm glad that Tom Rask brought up last Saturday's forum because I do want to speak to that for a second. It was a forum with Greenlight Pinellas and No Tax for Tracks. Barbara Hazelden called me up aside before the meeting, and she said, I know why you're here. This is not about water fluoridation. And I said, Barbara, I have to agree with you that this is not about water fluoridation. Water fluoridation was about the health and well-being of 700,000 of our residents here. I said, but Greenlight Pinellas is about 1 million residents here in Pinellas County and the health, well-being, and future of our county's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. It's about economic development and helping our kids come back here. So, but where you're incorrect is that the tactics are the same. The tactics use fear, Hitler, scaring old people with emails, and all the other things that people have said. I'm proud to say that I would have gladly taken an outdated rail system here this morning, which was introduced in 1825, versus an outdated Mercedes-Benz, as someone else took here this morning that was invented in 1984, some 70 years later. I would like to end with others' words than my own. It is a song by Johnny Cash called Man in Black. It's very appropriate to this. Well, you wonder why I always dress in black, why you never see bright colors on my back, and why does my appearance seem to have a somber tone? Well, there's a reason for things that I have on. I wear the black for the poor and beaten down, living in the hopeless, hungry side of town. I wear it for the prisoner who has long paid for his crime, but there because he's the victim of the crimes. This is not about prisoners, it's about our poor and needy, all of us. Excuse me. I wear the black for those who've never read or listened to the words that Jesus said about the road to happiness through love and charity, why you think he's talking straight to you and me. Well, we're doing mighty fine, I do suppose, in our streak of lightning cars and fancy clothes. But just so we're remembered of the ones who are held back, up there, up front ought to be a man in black. I wear it for the sick and lonely old, for the reckless ones whose bad trip left them cold. I wear the black in mourning for the lives that could have been. Each week we lose 100 fine men. I wear it for the thousands who have died, believing that the Lord was on their side. I wear it for another 100,000 who have died, believing that we all were on their side. Well, there's things that never will be right, I know, and things need changing everywhere you go. But till we start to make a move to make a few things right, you'll never see me wear a suit of white. And lastly, I'd love to wear a rainbow every day and tell the world that everything's okay, but I'll try to carry off a little darkness on my back till things are brighter. I'm the man in black. Thank you all for everything that you've done for us to move this county forward. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Next speaker, and this is the last card that I have, is Mrs. John Burgess. Okay.
I guess I'm the woman in black. Greenlight Pinellas will raise our sales tax to 8%. It'll be the highest in the state with no sunset provision for at least 50 years. And for most voters today, that will mean never a chance in their lifetime to relook at this. It is not only penalizing the poor, the middle class, the students, seniors, and then some. but it will hurt the mainstream business in our county. Now, these sentiments were expressed to me yesterday evening, unsolicited, by a Mr. Alain Ramar that would like to be represented today through me. Mr. Ramar is a 71-year-old, longtime resident of our area and has operated a variety of businesses along the beaches for years. He is the quintessential example of the pursuing and achieving the American dream. He came here at 15 as an immigrant from Europe, through the gates of Ellis Island to the land of opportunity. He became a high school teacher, a college professor, and a successful landlord, business owner, and currently resides in Clearwater Beach. And he owns a business here. He owns a business in Clearwater Beach and on St. Pete Beach. He is opposed to green light on many levels and contends that it will be devastating to small businesses that will feel the impact of the higher expense for supplies, inventory, insurance, common area costs, and then some. And then what will happen is that it will result in people cutting back their businesses, perhaps losing their businesses, and certainly, in order to try to maintain their business, to cut back on jobs. He also said that he observes very little ridership on the beach trolley. Sometimes he rides it, when his car is being repaired or serviced, and that he'll ride it from Clearwater Beach all the way to St. Pete Beach, where his other business is, and that, he'll have about 6 or 7 fellow riders. He also observes down in Clearwater Beach, since his business is right there by the turnaround, that there are rarely in the morning coming to work more than 6 or 7 people on that trolley. Now, we have heard these concerns over and over by other people other than Mr. Ramar. But Greenlight has spent $1 million and more trying to convince us differently that the highest sales tax in the state is good for everybody. We don't understand how that could be. Even members of the Clearwater Chamber recognize that this could be bad for business, for the business community. And last week, even though that chamber had the banner for Greenlight in a straw poll, Greenlight went down 30 to 44. So even the real estate environment that, the Board of Realtors appears to be all behind this, but individuals in the real estate business are very much against it. So I just want to say in closing that let's save our buses. Let's improve our bus service to the 1.6% of the people who use it. They need it. We support that. But Greenlight is a train program. We do not need that, and it is a bad deal for the people of Pinellas County. Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Ms.
thank
Burgess.
you on behalf of Mr. Alain Ramar.
Thank you, Mrs. Burgess. I have no other cards. Did anyone else wish to speak to the board? Seeing none, I want to hit on a couple of questions that were put forward and then make a comment and then open it up to any board comments. Counselor, can you speak to the issue that Dr. Webb brought up about Brad's authorization to return the $354,000?
Yes, the complaint or the claim is that that Mr. Miller exceeded his spending authority under the rules and regulations, when actually in returning the money to DHS, that was not a procurement that would be governed by those rules and regulations. That's not he was not buying or services or purchasing goods for PSTA. The actual purchase was approved by PSTA. That is to run the ads that ran and that the money was used for. So in a sense, all that Mr. Miller ended up doing was changing the funding for the procurement that was approved by PSTA, and that does not violate the rules and regulations of this board.
Thank you, Counselor. The next issue that I just wanted to hit on, I believe it was Mr. Rask made the statement that this board has never addressed that we made a mistake on the DHS grant. We spent most of the August 27th meeting doing exactly that. Fully acknowledged the mistake, fully owned that that grant was mishandled, and so you must have missed that meeting, but we spent most of August 27th saying that that was an unacceptable use of those grant funds. We said it very clearly, and that we would put rules and procedures in place, process reviews in place to make sure that never happens again. So that was fully stated by this board unanimously on August 27th.
That was my birthday. I kind of remember that day.
At your age, you still remember.
Yeah, I still remember.
The next item, I want to ask Brad or Ms. Borges to speak to the issue of light rail crossings in the county and Ulmerton in specific.
Good morning, board members. Cassandra
Morning.
Borchers. In our alternatives analysis, which we did the majority of work in 2011, we do show an at-grade crossing at Ulmerton and Roosevelt. We've been working on this in coordination with FDOT, both in 2011 and now in 2014. We did our initial traffic analysis in 2011, and we will update that through the NEPA process as scheduled in the Green Light Plan, given the news in a couple weeks. We continue to work with the Department of Transportation on that crossing and make it part of the Gateway Express project. They have asked specifically that we include our project within theirs, understanding that if we are both at the table together, we make better decisions on a single area of the county.
In terms of this argument that rail will increase congestion throughout the county, what are we doing to make sure that that does not happen?
The amount of time that it takes for a train to go through an intersection is about 15 to 30 seconds. There is different requirements for light rail than there are for freight rail. In fact, they have two different federal regulating agencies, the FTA versus the FRA. We don't necessarily need arms at every crossing if it's a signalized intersection. So we have been researching that and double-checking that, making sure that that is actually the case, and we did find some language in the Florida statutes to that effect.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Chair? Cassandra,
Commissioner Newton.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, if people started voting on this Green Light Pinellas transit options in the end of September through mail ballots. Now, if this initiative is not successful, will there be a at-grade crossing at Ulmerton, or would there be any plans to fund the at-grade crossing for rail at Ulmerton?
For rail, no, but that project for the Gateway Express would continue to go forward, and there would be a new signalized intersection there as part of that project. And so we are not putting the signalized intersection there. It would be FDOT.
All right. When this thing about ding-dong every 5 minutes and arms going up and down, if this initiative is not successful, there will be a train or something coming through there? Is it dependent on this Green Light Pinellas plan, or is it just something that the board is going to do anyway?
No, it's part of the light rail project.
So if this transit initiative is not, for the county, is not successful, there will be no ding-dong and traffic stopping. So all this is depending on the voters voting in favor of the Green Light Pinellas plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Vice Chair.
You mentioned that the current DOT plan shows a traffic light at that intersection?
Yes, it would be a new signalized, a new signal at that location, much like the overpasses on 19, the Roosevelt over Ulmerton.
And there are no plans from DOT that you're aware of to remove the other traffic lights in that section of?
No, I spoke with Debbie Hunt this morning, and there is a plan to remove the traffic light at 40th. And so this would not be in one additional, it would balance each other out in theory.
So there'd still be the same number of traffic lights in that area?
If you say that the 40th Street would be removed and this new signal would be put in. But that's part of their plan.
And is the rail crossing about the same as what a traffic cycle?
The 15 to 30 seconds would fit within a normal traffic cycle and could be programmed to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me make another comment, and then I'll open up to any other board comments, and then we'll move on to our agenda. The question raised by some about Mr. Miller and the Homeland Security grant. As I said, the board has fully discussed this in August. I am more confident than ever that we did the right thing in August when we've laid out our priorities. We talked about what went wrong with that particular grant, keeping in mind that's one $354,000 grant out of tens of millions of dollars of grants that we handle successfully every year. We still needed to make some corrections, and we did that. If you go back to my memo of August 22nd, we laid that out very clearly. And Brad worked with me on that memo, and it covered everything from better board communication to a better focus on our core services and the need for transparency. We put all those things in place because we realized that that performance on that grant was not acceptable. I have read most of the emails that Mr. Deason reported on, and quite frankly, no one is more concerned, upset, even angry than a board member who's given bad information and then makes statements based on that information. And that's what we did when we first heard about this DHS grant. Brad fully admitted that that information was wrong, that DHS had not signed off on the grant as he thought they had, and that we did not include the content in those commercials that should have been. It wasn't about the green light logo, it's that we didn't have the proper content about terrorism in those commercials. That was what we missed. But in going back and reading the actual emails, even in the quote about beloved security, and I have talked to Brad about the tone of those emails. I did not think the tone is what we're looking for in terms of our professional staff, even if it's in a heated argument. But he begins that by saying, quote, "The Department of Homeland Security knows how this grant is being used." Brad believed that DHS had signed off on it. He further says to staff, "I know that you maintain heartburn about how the grant is being used, so please call the Department of Homeland Security." He asked for staff to make sure that we were using this grant correctly. So I think you have to read this in its totality. I certainly have issues with the tone of it. Again, this was last year. Part of the problem here, I think, also is I didn't see any board member copied on this, which we normally wouldn't be, nor the chair at that time copied on this. We've addressed that and said we need to have tighter communication between the chair specifically and with the board in general on these issues. I guess the bottom line on this is that we have addressed this issue. We take it very seriously. We've said over and over that performance on that grant was unacceptable to this board. I think Brad did the right thing by returning those dollars. And I, for one, am willing to give our CEO a chance to continue the overall good performance that we all said that he had when we gave him his evaluation. Everyone in this room has made a mistake. And as the object of one of the Hitler videos that we've heard here so much today, this situational outrage that I'm hearing from some folks is pretty incredible. Let me just also say that I did speak with Congressman Jolly on Monday, made sure he understood the board's position, that we fully acknowledge this mistake, that we welcome any DHS review to help us improve our processes and probably help them improve their processes, because it seems to me like a 10-minute phone call could have avoided all of this between us and DHS. But I had a good, positive conversation with Congressman Jolly. I've spoken with Congressman Castor several times on this, and they understand where this board wants to go. And so you all have a copy of the emails. If you want to bring anything back at a future meeting, I encourage you to do so. But I think we're on the right path. I think we've acknowledged a mistake and we're moving forward. And I don't think we need to rehash this at every meeting moving forward. We have an election on November 4th. It's been a tough political election like we knew it would be. At the end of the day, the citizens will decide, and we're going to have a lot of work to do starting November 5. So that's my take on this issue. Comments from the board. Commissioner Newton.
Yes, I just wanted to also reiterate my support for Brad Miller. Has not wavered. The money has went back. Didn't cost the taxpayers a dime, as a lot of people stated. I think we gave it all back, right? This was a penny. So the tax money that people are talking about went back in August, way back in August. Also, I wanted to touch on our UPass service. We had a student come up, and I'm just grateful that that was a great idea in partnerships that Brad went out and forged with the city of St. Petersburg, St. Pete College, and USF St. Pete. And to date, I guarantee that young man since the UPass have not spent one dime with PSTA out of his pocket. Not one dime. In fact, he admitted last board meeting that, yeah, I'm using it. You think I won't? But that in itself saves the students, the ones that's trying to better themselves, up to $4,000 a year. I'm a product of the transit system. My mom raised 8 kids in the city of St. Petersburg as a single mom on government subsidies, food stamps, welfare, government cheese, summer jobs, after-school jobs. You're looking at it. The only way I was able to obtain where I'm sitting today is by virtue of mass transit. My mom took 5 of us with her to go shopping. We were the shopping carts that brought back all the groceries that we can carry on the bus. When I graduated Northeast High School in '81, my mom took me over to Tampa, took me down on 7th Avenue in Ybor City to the Blue Ribbon. We walked back from there with 3 bags of grocery, showed me how to cut up a chicken, how to flour it, how to make Kool-Aid, you know, and then inside of 2 hours she was gone. Back to St. Petersburg with someone that brought us over here. And I had to ride the bus, the hard line from downtown Tampa all the way out to USF. And that's how I was able to attain my degree in electronics engineering through ITT on that bus line. I dated on that bus line. I mean, we did everything. It was pure love because we did everything by the Hart bus line. And when I graduated ITT in 1983, on that bus line, I was able to go to a job interview from the Urban League in Tampa Park Plaza out to Xerox Corporation, where I obtained employment at Xerox Corporation. Then they provided a company car for me. And after saving money, I was able to pull myself up once I got some boots, buy a boot scrap. And you see the young man you see today with a family that's not dependent on government subsidies, that's self-sufficient, and that's able to go out and realize their full potential. We owe this to the young people. My 4 kids, my 6 grandkids, and all the other youth that attain themselves to want to do something better, that can't afford a car, that can't afford to get around. I heard people talk about how we're wasting tax money, and they're from Treasure Island. And last time I checked, I don't want to be wrong, does Treasure Island pay into the program that runs PSTA, Brad? I'm not sure. They don't participate in the Avalon funding source currently in place that runs PSTA. Correct. Okay, so I can't fathom what's going on there, but I do know this. With the passage of this initiative, Greenlight Pinellas, the 1 cent sales tax, everybody in the county will have access to the transportation options. There will be no exclusion because the leadership of whoever they have in charge do not want to participate in a funding system that provides transportation options to the constituents, to the tourism, to the students, and the people that live in this city. It's all about options. And we have 2 options, do something or do nothing. I support Brad 100%. My support for Brad has not changed. And I know why they have to Brad. Brad is the most visible, the most active CEO I have ever seen in any business I've been in. I was in Xerox 18 years. I've never seen our CEO out doing nothing. The only Xerox that people knew was me. Just like the only PSTA everybody in this city knows is these bus drivers. That's who you see. You see the board once a month. You see them every day. People depend on them to get from A to B, to their medical appointments. So it's imperative that we do something to make sure that we continue this. The best time for a transit system expansion was 10 years ago. And I appreciate everything that Brad has done. I support him. Is he perfect? No. None of us are. All of us are imperfect leaders, and we fell short in the sight of God. If anybody's in this room perfect, stand up, including me. But I do know that doing nothing is not an option. Somebody made that quote. They call it the Norm Roach effect. And Norm Roach, he said that himself. He said, we should do nothing. An elected official said, we should do nothing. That came out of his mouth, his exact quotes. So that's the Norm Roach effect. If you want us to do nothing, unfortunately, we're not able to. What I love about this the most, though, when people talk about us up here and accuse us and call us names and call us corrupt, the people get to vote. And in democracy, everybody gets to vote. And I love that because you should not fear the outcome of the vote. That's what got us up here, and the people are voting as we speak. And if you don't like it, all I can tell you is don't vote for it. But, and I'm going to close with this. As to signs, I carry a bunch of them around in the back of my own personal vehicle. And I went down through South St. Pete and some of the areas that I represent and some of the other areas that I don't. some of the more underserved areas in our city, and put signs out, and they vanish. But I keep them there because they got my cell phone number. They call me and I bring them another one. You know, it's an ongoing process. But it always happens. I mean, when I run my campaign, signs vanish. Not as quick as these green light vanilla signs, but they do vanish. And I would just tell people, respect that. You know, those are just signs. And people put their signs out there, they do cost money. Leave them out there. Because last time I checked, signs don't vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Long, and then Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be brief. For those of us that are sitting on this board that are elected, this is probably going to be, if not the most important issue that we have addressed, it certainly is going to be right up there in the top 3. This board has a vision for Pinellas County and for the future of our kids and our grandkids. So the initiative is not about one person or this board. It's about the future. And I'd just like to close my remarks with a quote that hopefully will lift us out of the weeds and focus on the objective of getting this initiative passed. First, have a definite, clear, practical ideal, a goal, an objective. Second, have the necessary means to achieve your ends: wisdom, money, materials, and methods. Third, adjust all your means to that end. And that was said by Aristotle, however long ago. Sometimes wisdom comes from strange places, but I think it's important to remember what our goal is, how important this is for the future of our county and our region.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I just wanted to say that this whole thanks. You know, this whole DHS thing has just been beat beyond recognition, and you know, there might be some shock value in a newspaper article, but I mean, I feel we've fully addressed this, and it's been a distraction, and it's just time to move on from it. You know, November 4th, the residents of Pinellas County are going to decide one way or the other which way they want this transit agency to go. And November 5th, the hard work begins regardless of that outcome, and that's what we need to be focused on. So.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Any other comments before we move on through the agenda? Does any board member want to move in a different direction regarding our CEO?
No.
Because I don't plan to bring this up again.
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the rest of our agenda. And this, Mayor Doug Beavis is not here. Maybe he knew what this meeting would be like, but he is our incoming board member. He is the mayor of Oldsmar, and we'll make sure, I think he had this actually on his calendar for yesterday, so we'll make sure he has the right date next time. So we'll move to item 3B with a look back. This is our 30th anniversary for PSTA, and we have 3 former chairs. We're probably glad that they're former right now. And who's going to kick off the presentation? Jeff. I still want to call you Chair, Jeff Danner. Also joined by R.B. Johnson and Deborah Kynes.
Thank you, and good morning. It is
Morning.
good to be back here. Good thing is when I'm done, I can leave, and you can stay here and finish your business. I'm Jeff Danner, former chair of PSTA, and today I come to you as a former chair, just to, along with 2 other chairs, because this month represents the 30th anniversary of PSTA. In 1984, like today, public transit improvements were supported by the people of Pinellas County, and I appreciate how hard the PSTA board and boards have worked over those decades. This presentation on our anniversary will hopefully provide some perspective on how long we've been working to improve our transportation options in Pinellas County. I have with me here today former Chair Deborah Kynes, who served from October 2004 to 2007, and Mayor R.B. Johnson from August 7th to 2007 to October of 2011, and myself October 11 to December of 13. PSTA was created by a majority vote of the citizens of the county. There was actually 2 votes on the ballot. One was to consolidate the City of St. Petersburg's transportation system with the Central Pinellas Transit Authority, and also to levy and authorize the .75 millage. The brochures you see here today were about that referendum created by the PSTA's public organization. The vote passed, and PSTA organization combined those 2 transit systems, patched together in one county system, was then launched in October of 1984. Meanwhile, Pinellas MPO approved its Guideway report calling for new rail lines on what is now the Pinellas Trail, as well as the largest job center in the Gateway area. And you can see history repeats itself. Another thing that repeats itself is over the 30-year history, you will see the ridership has increased, and I'm happy to announce, and I'm sure all of you see, 6 years in a row now, breaking record ridership year after year, month after month, and a steady incline for most of those 30 years. We've been successful in laying the foundation over those 30 years as to where our transportation will go over the next 30 years. And with that, I'd like to request that Deborah come up and take us from there.
Final revision. Okay. Can you hear me? Push this. That one? Oh, okay. Wrong.
You look nice, Deborah.
Okay.
Hold your hair up.
As I talk, just push it. Okay, good morning. I was chair of the PSTA when we can say we really merged with the opening of this transit facility. This combined facility was completed within its budget and has saved PSTA millions of dollars over the years in efficiency costs by consolidating operations from the former 2 garage systems. Now, can we see the second? Back. No.
Rachel, I have to do it for you. Rachel can do it for you.
You can't? Okay. There we go. Okay, you can now see the 2005 ribbon cutting pictures. You can see that I was very young there, and now PSTA gave me over 13 years gray hair. You can see that. Right by me is Bill Johnson, who is going to be coming on, I understand, as the PSTA chairman after Kenneth Welch. Is that correct? Commissioner Welch. Other PSTA board members that served with me and should certainly be honored for their service are Chris Arbitine, David Archie, Rick Butler, Gay Gentry, Calvin Harris, Chris Holmes, Carl Nurse, and I also want to say that Don Williams, Karen Seal's father, served for many years working on the bus system, even before it was the PSTA. I think many of the current, forget it. Forget it. That's a good picture. I think many of the current PSTA board members know one key initial ingredient of the Greenlight Pinellas plan we have today was the hiring of Tim Garling as executive director during my time as chair. Tim created new opportunities and a vision for the organization's future. He made countless presentations in the community and built new partnerships that have significantly benefited our plans for the future. I want to talk about one of the key things I believe that really came out of the last decade, and I can really very proudly say that it came during my presidency. The Greenlight Pinellas plan we have today is well vetted, thought out plan, but it is important to remember that the plan voters are considering now is based on the foundation of many other transportation plans, studies, and ongoing community input. When I started as chair, one of the very first major decisions I was involved with was a debate about how we were going to spend an approximate $3.3 million earmark PSTA received from former Congressman Bill Young. The PSTA and MPO ultimately made a decision that benefited the entire region instead of just one single project. Instead of just funding further design of a rail on Clearwater Beach, we instead chose to fund this more comprehensive county-wide bus rapid transit study. That decision marked the point where bus rapid transit was understood to be a vital component to a sophisticated, integrated mass transit plan. I think if I had to summarize the most important initiative, it would be that by studying bus rapid transit, by holding bus rapid transit workshops, by bringing in bus rapid transit experts, the PSTA board at that time, and I believe now, understand that bus rapid transit is an intrinsic, vital component to a superior mass transit system. An integrated system is made of bus rapid transit, trolleys, rail. It's all integrated and it's sophisticated. This is a map and a rendering of a bus rapid transit station as part of the Central Avenue Bus Rapid Transit Study PSTA and the City of St. Petersburg completed during my chairmanship. I thank you. I'm very proud to say that I served on the PSTA for 13 years, and I commend your leadership. I respect you. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. It still feels a little bit odd to be standing up here after having sat over there for so many years. I was honored also to chair PSTA and to continue development plans and regional initiatives that were started under Deborah's chairmanship. And right here, you're looking at a picture of me and Tim Garling celebrating the arrival of our first hybrid electric trolley bus. This is actually on the beach. I believe this is from the Sand Key Sheraton. And at this time, we were starting to swap into our fleet a number of the diesel electric buses and trolleys, and I believe that's still continuing to this very day. During my chairmanship of PSTA, the Pinellas Mobility Initiative was finalized. It started well before my time as a chair, but I think that the final result was really one of the first plans that was truly multimodal. Now, for a number of years, PMI, the Pinellas Mobility Initiative, was focused on studying possibilities for a premium transit network around the county. And premium transit is defined as bus or rail public transit services which carry riders over longer distances in a short period of time. And what the PMI ended up doing towards the tail end of its study periods, and PMI was in existence over a number of years, what it did was took this concept of countywide premium transit and incorporated it into a network of BRT, bus rapid transit, fixed skyway, and express services countywide, and took this in a plan over to Tampa as well, trying to create a more regional system. Now, this PMI map does, of course, look quite similar to the green light maps, and many of the other maps that you've seen have quite a few similarities. Now, one key initiative we launched during my chairmanship was a transit funding study, which really was the first effort to look at how to change PSTA's financial profile, first time probably since 1984. Now, if the PMI's plans for transit improvements were going to be funded, it would require a different source than ad valorem. We all knew that the property tax was not going to be able to fund all the improvements that we were talking about for our system. So the transit funding study looked at all possible revenue sources very closely. And we also discussed the pros and cons of a tax swap, basically getting rid of the property tax and having another tax like the sales tax replace it. And it was becoming increasingly obvious to us that a sales tax was the most promising route because we simply could not find any other funding source that would provide the needed revenue. So things were starting to fall into place. The Pinellas Mobility Initiative was concluded. We completed the funding study, and then Commissioner Karen Seal completed her transportation task force. Now this task force consisted of 25 citizens and elected officials from all over the county, and it developed a comprehensive list of transportation recommendations for the county in the future, including pursuing a transportation surtax, or sales tax as we call it, to support in part the implementation of premium transit. Now, all of these efforts were key ingredients to the Green Light Plan. But at this time, we really had plans coming out of our ears. We had plans this way, plans that way. We had plans with PSTA. We had plans and maps from the MPO, TBARTA, PMI. I mean, we'd seen a lot of plans over many years. But what we really needed to do at this point was to get our foot on the first step of the ladder for federal funding for premium transit. If we didn't get on that first step of the ladder in the process, nothing was ever really going to get done. We were just kind of circular, spinning our wheels and all that. And conducting an alternatives analysis is the necessary first step in the process to request federal funds. So at this time, we finally gathered the funding together to begin the alternatives analysis, which is really the great first step in this whole process to improve the transit system for Pinellas County. Now, like all planning efforts, it's so easy to forget how much citizen input goes into each of these initiatives. And as this slide shows, there are photos from an alternatives analysis workshop plus a photo from an e-town hall we held to get input from the community as we developed this plan. And I, too, just like Jeff and Deborah, was very honored to chair PSTA when we were doing all these plans, studies, and moving ourselves forward to the point where we are today. And I spent a lot of time up there and really enjoyed it. And this is a great organization. I appreciate everything that y'all have done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, RB. Certainly all of you know one of the challenges with Pinellas County is having 25 different municipalities and then the number of transit agencies and planning agencies and all of those things that we're involved in. We're fortunate, and Brad's the third executive director while I was on PSTA. Roger Sweeney, who retired after the completion of this facility, left us with a transit agency that had the youngest fleet in the country, no debt, a brand new facility, and a decent amount of reserves to carry us through some difficult times. What happened after that is we started changing the culture of PSTA, where instead of just sort of a social service agency, to really get out and engage the community more and start looking at these plans. One of the things that has happened in the last at least decade or so is so many of you and those of us that are on these boards sit on multiple transportation agencies. We sit on the MPO and the Pinellas Planning Council as well, and bringing all those groups together. I sat on TBARTA and was asked, what is Pinellas County's #1 transportation priority, and I had no idea. So I asked my assistant to, let's get everyone together that sits on MPO, PSTA, TBARTA, the County Commission, and Pinellas Planning Council. Let's just get together in a forum and see if we can decide what that priority is or what direction we're going to go into. She came back with a list of 38 elected officials that sat on that board. I didn't have a room in City Hall to host that size people. But we started coming together, and I've been up in Washington with the FTA, talked to DOT, and as a result of combining all those groups, as RB said, with the funding committee, with the alternative analysis, putting everyone in the same room, our advisory committees that have representation from our road network on the MPO, PSTA, TBARTA, they said, you have got it. You figured out how to engage with what we were doing, going out in the community in so many different forums and talking to people about the MPO's LRTP and the PSTA's TDP was a little bit confusing, but we were engaging the public through so many different priorities. And certainly the alternative analysis was probably the most comprehensive study we had done in years, but we knew that was just one project and that we needed to go forward. So after the alternative analysis was completed, started doing the bus plan. And really, again, now we stand here after 30 years and really have just sort of pieced that system together over the years. And I know Commissioner Duncan used to point to that board up there and says, what would happen if we just took all the puzzle pieces off and started over? What would it look like? And that was the reason behind the community bus plan. What does it happen? How does it look if we built it today from the ground up? That system was also completed as we move forward. And again, the great thing about the plan and the great thing about where we've come is the number of people. Tens of thousands of people have been involved in this. Every neighborhood group, every chamber of commerce, going out there talking about our future. Again, the alternative analysis, the bus rapid transit routes, the community bus plan, and things like that. Again, just one of the slides of the many meetings that we did when we combined together. And after years, it is good that, again, we're now looking at our future after 30 years of this board being together, where we will go in the next 30 years. Being able to brand all those plans as Greenlight Pinellas gave us a simple way to communicate to the public that we are moving forward. We are looking for ways to improve the transportation options. In doing so, we also received endorsements from nearly 50 cities, chambers, civic organizations, and these endorsements really weren't on the referendum. They were just on the plan and the process that we went through to garner that support, to receive input from people. I think it's a fantastic accomplishment of PSTA. I'm proud to have played a role in that organization, and want to thank all of you, all of the, I don't even know how many board members there would have been over the last 30 years that have sat on here. Trying to count that number was just a daunting task. But again, we are looking forward to continuing this effort, have another 30 years of the service to this community, provide transportation options to people. With that, is there anything else that either board member would like to say?
Well, Chair.
Congratulations on 30 years, and I look forward to another 30 more.
Thank you. To Chair Kynes, Danner, and Johnson, I just want to thank you so much for your leadership. I see so much expertise just between you three sitting there, and so much leadership and responsibility really for building the foundation for PSTA becoming a much better transit organization, much more connected with the community, as you said, Chairman Danner, and really setting the foundation for one of the most important elections for this county in a long time. So thank you so much for being here today, for everything that you've done to get us to this point. And I'll ask, are there any other comments from the board for our past chairs? Well, thank you all so much, and make sure you cast your ballot. We'll move on now to item 4A, our Transit Riders Advisory Committee, and Chair Elaine Mann.
Morning.
Good morning.
Chairman Welch, Mr. Miller, esteemed board members, I'm Elaine Mann, Chairman of the TRAC Committee. We met on October 14th. We had two actionable items at that meeting. The first was the approval of the 2015 meeting schedule for TRAC, which was approved unanimously. Following that was a brief presentation by Jeff Thompson, who shared with us a bit of information about the information gathering meeting between TRAC, a couple of TRAC members and staff, where we learned more about what was currently being done in regards to the homeless. Sharing that information, the motion was then put before the board to take that on as the TRAC, as helping staff develop policy and procedure regarding the homeless and their treatment at the bus shelters and on the buses. That motion also passed unanimously. We were presented by John Villeneuve a short presentation on the regional fare collection and policy regarding the smart card, and asked for input on how that marketing might occur and how that would be most effective with riders. A lot of conversation ensued after that, and we actually have moved to an electronic format and giving further input on that. And then Chris Cochran did a short presentation on the UPass, sharing with us that it now covers City of St. Petersburg employees, St. Pete College students, faculty, and staff, micro school, and the USF and St. Pete. Finally, we were presented with a list of upcoming events through the end of the year and invited to volunteer, encouraged to volunteer to participate with those. And I'm happy to say I did the Jazz Festival last weekend. It was an exciting opportunity to represent PSTA and find out more about what people think about Greenlight Pinellas in the county, and also further reaching, because we had a lot of people visiting Jazz that were from Orlando and other areas that were really excited to hear that we were looking at expanding the transportation system. I had a couple of people say we would have loved to have taken a train over here from Orlando to the festival. So I thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain those.
Sure, man. Thank you for your leadership and for that great report. Any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
very
I'm
much.
personally really excited to see we're taking on the issue of homeless, because I think that's very important for what we're trying to do. So thank you so much.
Certainly.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay, let's move now to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any items to be pulled? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 6A, the CEO's 2014-15 performance goals. We talked about that last month. There was one addition from Secretary Buljowski that's been added. Do we have any comments, or is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 6B is the 2015 meeting schedule, and I just had several comments from the public on the value of our 6 p.m. meetings, particularly since one young lady who comes commented that our buses don't run late enough to get her home after the meeting. So she recommended that we move one of the 6 p.m.s to a 1 or 2 p.m. meeting, so that she could actually take the bus back after the meeting, which makes sense to me. And we really haven't had the attendance that we thought we'd get with the 6 p.m. meetings, which is the reason we put 2 on the agenda. So I would suggest we have one 6 p.m. meeting, just to continue to have that opportunity. We still have both trim meetings at night as well, right?
That's right.
They're not on here, are they?
No.
They're December 9th.
Okay, so the September 2nd and 9th are 6 p.m. meetings, so we actually would still have 3 evening meetings.
So maybe the 23rd, make that the 1 or 2 p.m. one,
Okay.
given the fact we're already having nighttime meetings during that month.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chair?
The one question that came up this year, and I didn't really realize it at the time, is the city of Clearwater has 2 public meetings on the budget. One is a special meeting. Well, one is because we meet twice a month. We do them both at regularly scheduled meetings. Here, we only meet once a month. So obviously, if we're going to have 2 meetings in September, we would have to schedule a special budget meeting. But I'm wondering if the second budget public hearing really could be incorporated with the September meeting, especially if it's in a evening meeting. So people wouldn't have to come back twice to come to a budget hearing, and then if there was something on the agenda in September in the second.
Did those, so you're suggesting eliminating the September 23rd meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Because don't the trim hearings have to be within a certain amount of days of each other?
no, I don't believe 2
Prob-
weeks of each other.
2 weeks?
I mean, if we had the meeting on the 9th and 23rd, would that be 2 weeks?
Why don't we approve the calendar for every month except September and come back with a September schedule that works?
So move.
No.
Madam Secretary?
As I always do every year, I point out that the March meeting is during spring break of our school system. And as a parent, last 2 years, you guys have been willing to move our meeting to the 3rd week rather than the 4th to accommodate that for me.
Kids throw a party.
I would echo that. I have the same concern. I
Yeah,
didn't know
and
that was
so-
spring break.
Yep. It generally is the last week of March. At least it has been for the last 2 years.
Okay, so is everybody okay with moving the March meeting to a different date?
Yes.
So we'll move March to a different date in March, and we'll look at whether we can eliminate one of the September meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 6C, yellow cab ownership change. Is that you or Ross?
I think I can handle it.
Okay.
Attached at your place, this is an action item for you to approve of a assignment letter, which you have there, because of new ownership of one of our 2 contractors for our DART paratransit service, Clearwater Yellow Cab. Clearwater Yellow Cab, we competitively procured Clearwater Yellow Cab and Care Ride to provide our paratransit service 4 years ago. They're in the midst of a 5-year contract with PSTA. They're in just starting now year 4 of 5, so they've just about 2 years to go. And they have been bought out by a new company, a much larger international company called Transdev. Transdev is a international public transit company that currently operates in the Tampa Bay area, the Super Shuttle service from the airport. But they operate rail and bus and services all across the United States. And I think it is a real good opportunity for PSTA by having this larger transportation company buy out Clearwater Yellow Cab. As board members may know, there have been off and on, and more recently in the news media, some stories about challenges with the DART service with Clearwater Yellow Cab, where taxi cabs are not on time picking up their DART clients, which we have been working diligently with them on. And we believe this is a real opportunity. Transdev has now taken over and has started operating, and we're starting to see improvements. They've hired more drivers. They've brought in more taxi cab vehicles. And slowly but surely, we think with this larger company, it'll be a real good thing for our customers.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Finance and Performance Management has reviewed this. Any comments?
The only comment is we did receive an extensive update from Mr. Silvers and voted to recommend to the board the approval of the document as suggested.
Okay. Is that a motion to approve?
Aye.
Second.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
This is only, this doesn't have anything to do with other providers of services for such as persons who use wheelchairs, right?
Correct. Care Ride is our provider for people that use wheelchairs who can't get into a taxi cab.
Right.
And they are still with their same ownership, same structure. It has no effect on them.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Reports and correspondence. Mr. CEO?
I'd like to just highlight again, I think what Chair Danner, or former Chair Danner, noted, that September was a record ridership month, and it concluded a year in a row of PSTA ridership transit services being the highest in the history of the county. So a very good month. We're seeing continued strong ridership through the month of October as well. Also, just point out on in the stats that we are seeing, hopefully, some good progress, signs of our increased focus on maintenance. And the miles between road calls, a key indicator that we should report to you every month, keeps rising, so showing that our buses are providing more reliable service to our customers. We also had a very good month in accidents, in reduced number of accidents, which, again, knock on wood, is hopefully a good sign, because we have been focused on more training and more focused on defensive driving skills as well. That was in your budget. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. And that's another record year. What was our boardings number for last year?
There's about 14.5 million total rides.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments on the CEO's report? Okay, next item is the capital projects update, 7B.
This is in your packet as well. This is something that the Finance and Performance Management Committee of your board reviews monthly. This has, we've made some improvements in this as part of our overall effort to provide better compliance and project management skills of the organization. So this report, which is on page 55, details all of the capital projects that are underway at PSTA and their status and progress, and the committee reviews this monthly.
Okay. Questions on the capital projects report? Okay, seeing none, future meeting subjects.
We have a tentatively scheduled board meeting on November 12th, on the morning of November 12th. This would only be held if the Greenlight Pinellas referendum item is passed. We need to have this meeting to start a bonding validation process required to implement the Greenlight Pinellas plan, and that's what would be the action item on that agenda.
And that's a 9 a.m.?
It's a 9 a.m. meeting. It is the same day as the Pinellas MPO meeting, but we expect it to be a short meeting.
Okay. All right. Any other business? I do want to note today was Commissioner Latvala's last meeting with us. She had to catch a flight, which is why she had to leave, but we'll bring her back and recognize her for her service. We'll move on to board member comments. Commissioner Maroney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's meeting reminded me of years ago before early voting started, and there was always that last weekend October surprise that a candidate could not respond back to because it came in the mail very late. But now that we have early voting, this has been going on for weeks, and you had predicted that this would happen. You were right on the money, and I think everything has been explained. And 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll know the outcome, and hopefully people of Pinellas County will be looking forward and voting yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Well
much.
said.
Senator Barkley. Mr. Vice Mayor, sorry about that.
That's okay. I was all set to say hi to Mayor Beavis, but unfortunately he wasn't here, but we'll talk to him next time. I also would like to say that this was a very open opportunity for all sides to point out their positions, and I'm glad that we had this opportunity. I would also say that I voted yesterday, and hope many of you already have, and I presume you know that I voted for Greenlight Pinellas. So I encourage all the folks who are out there, if they have not voted, to vote either early voting or on Election Day. And thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Barkley. This is the Vice Mayor side of the dais. Vice Mayor Johnson.
The only thing I want to say is that, and I've said it before, I grew up on St. Pete Beach. I've been here quite a few more years than many in this audience have been alive. And I grew up riding that bus, going to St. Pete every weekend. That was the highlight of our lives. And I would like to see us have a better transit system. That's why I'm here, and that's why I've said what I've said. To actually be in a position where I had to take driver's license away from my dad and provide transportation for my mom, and having the opportunity to serve along with Brian Scott on transportation disadvantaged for Pinellas County. It's really important to me and to many disabled, disadvantaged people in Pinellas County to have a transit system that meets their needs. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to give you one brief update about the Finance Committee last meeting. At the request of Mr. Dighton, he asked that we have an update from the union management perspective, and so at that meeting, Mr. Oki O'Hara was there and gave a presentation on the rather unique relationship of our local union. It is an independent union, and it really is a partnership with PSTA to serve both the public and make sure that the union members are well served. And I was very pleased with that report and wanted to acknowledge him and thank him for coming and giving that. Second subject is looking at some of those pictures reminds me that I've basically served on and off on this board since 2001. And since 2005, I have visited with, I counted them up, 15 different transit authorities throughout the United States, actually going in and talking to their management, not just riding their systems. And the purpose of that is to review their history, their successes, their failures, their restarts, and I've been proud to be able to bring that information back and use that as input into the Greenlight Pinellas process. One of the comments that was made by one of the early speakers was intimidation by the chairman of this board that could throw me off of this board. Well, I would like to say that I am a representative of the city of Clearwater. They can throw me off, but I don't think the chairman can. And I would say that the Clearwater City Council held a public meeting where we heard both sides of the story on Greenlight Pinellas, and after that, they enthusiastically and unanimously supported the Greenlight Pinellas plan. And so I'm their representative from that standpoint. I'd like to say that I was fascinated with Mr. Newton's story of riding public transit as a child and growing up here to achieve financial freedom for himself and his family. I think it's also a future for the economic future of Pinellas County as a whole that will benefit us if it passes. So I urge everyone to vote on upcoming November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Secretary Bujowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am heading into an election, so it might be my last meeting too. Never know. So I just want to talk about a little bit about something I'm really proud of, and that's been my time here at PSTA. Kind of like Mr. Johnson said, I'm here representing the city of Dunedin, and my job is twofold: to bring something back to my community and to do something good for Pinellas County. And I take those two jobs very seriously. One of the things I'm really proud of is getting the North Coastal Route Jolly Trolley. I think that was a first step for this organization to recognize that there were broader transportation needs in our county than what was being addressed. And so I'm really happy about that. The second thing is something that Mr. Danner mentioned earlier, and that is the bus study that we did. We very clearly looked at, if we blew up the system and started over, what would it take to make it a great system, an efficient system, a system that was that served everyone to the best of our ability, and without worrying about how hard it might be or how much it might cost or anything like that. We just said, what would it take to serve Pinellas County? And that became sort of the crux of the Greenlight Plan, because prior to that bus study, it was just about rail. And we did not have unity on this board, really, until the bus study was entered into the picture. And until the plan became about all modes of transportation, not just rail. Rail is just a very small piece of a much bigger plan. And that very step is what brought all of us together and brought community members and elected officials across the county together. And so those two things I am so very proud of that I can say I have been a part of. I've already voted, and I have absolutely voted yes for green light. And I urge my fellow neighbors in Pinellas County to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you for your leadership. I agree with your comments on the bus plan. That was a huge step for us. And I hadn't realized, depending on the outcome of this election, this was your last meeting?
Could be.
Okay.
Put that karma out there.
Or not her last meeting.
Bad karma.
That was not the intent, Commissioner Long. Commissioner Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to also thank my colleagues up here. I know how hard it is. I'm a representative of the city of St. Petersburg, a little small city that's 60 square miles wide, 250,000 people, roughly around a 10% representation of African Americans, born and raised in St. Petersburg. So you're looking at a product of that city. You're looking at a product of mass transit, city of St. Petersburg bus service, the Heartline, and the Greyhound is the way I did it. And it was all about access. I attended a conference last Friday over in Tampa about access to college, how kids can maybe raise themselves up. Because the college degree is the new, how can I say, monetary system for anyone that's trying to raise themselves up. No longer is it going to be the high school diploma, so they're going to need access to be able to get to these things. And just because someone is born into a situation where they have limited resources, they can't, their parents can't give them a brand new car or drive them here and there, they shouldn't be excluded from having an opportunity to realize the American dream. I'm a product of that, and I'm not ashamed of that. Some people often ask why I share that story. I'm sharing it because each one of us brings something different to this board. I'm a product of it. I wrote it. I don't write it now because of all the meetings I have to attend and every place I have to go, but I do support it, and I will write it in the future once we get better headways and it goes a lot of the places where I have to be. And it's a short amount of time that you have to wait for buses. I mean, I waited in the rain. I got wet with people. I stood there with my mom and get wet. I watched my mom ride it back and forth to Snell Isle where she did days' work, like that movie The Help, if you've seen that. That's the way she came up and took care and raised 8 kids. So it's personal to me, so I don't care what you do, but make sure you vote. I mean, I voted for it. I support it. I know the value of it. It's probably not about me. I'm 51 years old, as they stated, but I have 4 kids and 6 grandkids. And I look at all the other kids that I represent in my district and back in St. Peter, just to know they have an opportunity to have transportation options and access to do better is enough for me. Also, I want to thank Brad also, him and myself, Ken Welch and Mr. Diamond, cut the ribbon on the new Route 7. For the first time, we have bus route on 22nd Street or the Deuces in St. Petersburg that goes by the front of a brand new $40 million investment in St. Pete College that they built in the Midtown area. So people have access to a better education and in the hopes of having a better life. That's what it's all about. Also, I want to ultimately thank PSTA, which is the employees. Like I stated before, 18 years at Xerox, the customers I service all throughout Tampa Bay and from Newport Richey all the way to South St. Pete and Tampa. They'd never seen my boss. They'd never seen my district manager. They'd never seen the CEO. The only Xerox they knew was me. And the only PSTA that these people know day in and day out are these bus drivers. And I know their stories because I sat long rides and sat up front and talked with them, just to have conversation on the Heartline, on the city bus service, on the Greyhound. And they share their stories with me, so I want to thank them. We have 40 employees that receive accommodations. And take this out of love because I'm definitely going to hold up your name. I know the mayor's going to help me, though. She always do. We have 35 bus drivers and 5 customer service reps. The first one is Robert Alligood. Says professional, great driver. He's a bus operator. Robert Ballas, nice, helpful, courteous driver. Hannah Bakwi, her too. Patient, helpful, and pleasant. John Boychuk, he's nice and courteous, good driver. Juan Cabrera, kind, caring, professional. Joseph Calaco, got that right, courteous and professional. Elizabeth Cater, helpful, excellent driver. Muhammad Calhoun, him too, caring, kind, and helpful driver. Deanna Grayston, sweet, kind, courteous driver. Adrian Hampton Smith, nice, kind driver. Done. Doug Height, pleasant, helpful driver. William Holmes, helpful and knowledgeable. Brenda Jones, safe, friendly, professional. Darlene Kinney, very good driver. Paul Kirkland, safe and respectful driver. Elizabeth Large, she has 2 accommodations. Friendly, kind, helpful drivers. David Latimer, patient, helpful driver. Tom Lowry, friendly, helpful driver. Kevin McMenemy, him too. Considerate, helpful driver. Andre Mills, kind and great driver. Keith Motrin, kind, pleasant, helpful. Patrick Murray, kind, pleasant, respectful. Robinson Paul, nice, kind, considerate. Michael Pino, nice and helpful. Is that Jalal Puchin, nice, helpful, pleasant, nice, helpful, polite driver. Malin Rakovich, good driver, always on time. Michael Ralston, kind and considerate. Barry Richardson, kind, pleasant, helpful. Melanie Salisbury, or Sansbury, pleasant, friendly. Philip Scott, kind, friendly, considerate. Mike Simmons, kind, helpful, professional. James Thomas, kind, helpful, considerate. Chris Villanova, great driver, safe, helpful. William Wash, kind, helpful driver. These are the customer service reps. Irma Calendris, excellent customer service. Elise Fontenot, excellent patient and kind. Gay Johnson, and Gay is a neighbor of mine right up the street. Helpful and goes the extra mile. Rosalind Mims, patient and helpful. And Jason St. Croix, helpful and knowledgeable. These are the people that our end users see and interact with every day. They don't see the board, they don't see Brad, they don't see the supervisors, they see these bus drivers. So I want to thank you for all you do, because I know if it were not for you going into this occupation and driving me back and forth and helping me out, I wouldn't be where I'm at. But thank you for all you do for PSTA and the citizens of Pinellas County.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton, for recognizing our employees. Commissioner Rice.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As leaders of our community and as people who serve on PSTA, I think we certainly know that there are few issues that are more foundational and more transformational than working on transportation, and that's why we understand the importance of the work on this board and the importance of the educational outreach efforts of Greenlight Pinellas. And I'm in my first year of elected office, my second year on this board, but as I look down the road and think about the challenges of public leadership, I think that one of the things is that we're at the beginning of an era of infrastructure improvements. And that's a challenge because we have to engage, educate, and work with our voters and our taxpayers to make investments in infrastructure. And that's asking people to have the faith to put taxpayer money into improvements that, A, we may not see because it could be something like stormwater improvements, under our feet, under the ground, or B, it could be for something that happens in the future where such as with transportation, where we really may not be able to see the return on investment, to see those numbers and the improvement in our community that we can really hang our hat on until the future. Yet it's our responsibility to take these decisions seriously. It requires a process of working with the public and an educational process that requires a lot of maturity. It requires approaching things in an evidence-based and a fact-based approach. It is also, who are we kidding, it's emotional as well. But it also means that we as a board have to maintain an absolute vigilance to transparency and fairness in the process. And we've made a couple of stumbles along the way, but I think that we have held to a pretty high level of engagement with the public with this planning process. It's a process that I'm certainly proud of, and I was glad today to reaffirm my vote and support for our CEO, Brad Miller. Lastly, just one quick comment. If it were up to me, I would ban yard signs completely. They're expensive, they're ugly, they may raise spirits, but I'm not convinced they raise votes. It's election time, it's the silly season. Let's not get distracted on either side by and Halloween's right around the corner. There's going to be signs everywhere that are going to suddenly disappear or have things painted on them. It's not right, there's laws against it, and there's serious ramifications and fines if you get caught. The chairman's already stated nobody supports this. We have our eyes on the prize, much bigger goals, much important issues to cover with this referendum and talking about transportation, our plans. Like I said, if it was up to me, we'd ban the yard signs on both sides. Thank you for indulging me.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to get put on this board by my city council, my city commission. And at that time, the member that was leaving told me that this would be very political and be prepared for it. And I said I was up for that challenge, and I said I didn't mind because I believe public transportation is an important thing for not only my city but this county. And I took that on, and I vote and I support Greenlight Pinellas wholeheartedly. As the youngest member of this board, I believe investing in our future. It's something that's in the soul of me, and we all need to look at that. And I thank this board, looking past Democrats, Republicans, Independents. I don't give a crap about any of that kind of stuff. All I care about is making our citizens and our community, giving them the opportunity to get around from one end of our county to the other, to getting from up to Tampa and other parts of our lovely area, and for our tourists. When they come here, I find it disappointing when I have relatives who come here and look at Pinellas County and sit there and go, this is your transit system, oh my God. So I wholeheartedly support this Greenlight Pinellas plan. My city commission voted by a majority 6-1 to support this, and I ask my citizens and the citizens of this county to go out and vote and support Greenlight Pinellas. And on November 4th or November 5th, we'll know where we stand, and hopefully it's moving our county forward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. And again, I want to recognize that you were on the ballot as well.
And I will win.
Well, I like that. So to you and our secretary, we look forward to seeing you back here for continued work. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if I can follow that one. Well, it's been an interesting and spirited meeting today, and I am very much looking forward to November 4th and the clarity that that's going to bring, and then the hard work that we're going to be digging into on November 5th. Thinking positive, I'm assuming that November 12th meeting is going to take place. Unfortunately, I will be out of the country and will not be able to attend, but I will be here with you all in spirit, and I fully expect that Julie and Michael will be there as well. And I would also like to publicly thank Susan, even though she's not here. I know we'll have an opportunity to thank her in person probably next month, but she's been a long serving public servant for Pinellas County and has been on this board for a long time, and she leaves some really big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. Thank you. Commissioner Long?
I don't have much else to say except a little funny story you might find amusing at the end of our meeting here as it relates to no tax for tracks. 2 weeks ago, I was at a public meeting. Imagine my surprise when I walked out and my car was covered in red no tax for tracks signs that had been stuck all over my car and all over my windows with masking tape. So I probably shouldn't tell you what I did with them, but they aren't on my car anymore. And I'm very proud to say the day after I received my ballot, I voted yes, took it to the supervisor of elections office, and I did that for my 3 children and my 4 grandchildren in the future of this county.
That's right. Thank you. And that's a true story.
That is a true story. Yes, sir,
Okay.
it sure is.
Didn't expect that. Thank you. Commissioner Diamond.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank all the members on the board for their comments, and in particular, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your leadership. I've had the opportunity to watch you leading on this issue for the past several years, first as just a citizen in St. Pete and now as a colleague of yours on this board. And I think you have brought a great deal of fairness and good judgment to the management of this organization. I think there have been stumbles that have been acknowledged, but I think there is still confidence, a great deal of confidence in this board and in this agency, because you have responded to those issues by reaffirming the values that we all believe in and we all know that the staff here aspires to. So anyway, I know this has been a emotionally charged debate at times, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for what you've done, and we'll see where we are after the election, but I think the work will just be beginning for our agency.
Yes,
So, thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Diamond. And this, as I said before, has been a team effort from the start. This has been a 30-year overnight success, as Mayor Baker would say. A lot of folks have been to this point. I just want to tell you it's been an honor to work with all of you all. We've done the work, and now it's up to the voters of Pinellas County, and I am extremely proud of this PSTA organization, the board, the staff, and all the partners out there that helped us get to this point where we'll be leading Tampa Bay forward. So, is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.